You can have faith and still have struggles. You can have faith and still have lack. You can have faith and have trouble. Leanness sometime in our culture and environment around us is no indication that God has not blessed us, God has given us. Because life does not consist in the abundance of things. You cannot measure life by what you have or what you do not have. Life is measured by his presence. He is a living God. He dwells within us. And one thing that faith gives us, it gives us hope. And one of the things, Sandra, we've been looking at is how faith works. I often say to people, faith works by doubt. If you believe God, you got to disbelieve a lot of things.
Right.
You got to believe God, let God be true, and let everything else be a liar. If God has given a promise, you got to disbelieve the report and the prognosis and the diagnosis. We knew this woman, the Lord had made her a promise about healing. And the doctors kept giving her negative reports about sickness and that it was not curable. But she held on to the promise because she knew that faith worked by doubt. She didn't deny that the doctors were wrong. She simply denied the fact that that prognosis was final.
But you know, God gives us also the power and the ability to overcome anything.
Yes, it does.
Oh, and not, when I say overcome, I'm not saying overcome, maybe not flying out the sky overly victorious, but we have the power to walk in that challenge with the confidence that God's going to be with us and he's going to meet us on the other side and we will be fine. And the conviction, I know that God will take care of us. He will take care of me. Despite anything that comes against us, that is a conviction because God has demonstrated that repeatedly in our lives. And then sometimes if we have wrong perceptions about God or wrong promises about what God's going to do, then that's on us. Because God isn't going to just do it just to verify if it's wrong. And I've been taught, I've heard someone say, well, God will just make that thing right. It says all things work together for the good. But all things sometimes can be a tremendous challenge to you.
Well, Sandra, you know, I sense the Spirit of the Lord moving in us and moving in me right now to say some things that I would say is prophetic. And I want to say right now, the days and times in which we live, there's a principle. Better the end of a thing than the beginning. Some things that we see now will not always be. But we're in the midst of a reformation of clarity. Well, the Lord is allowing every belief system, every contrary thought and idea is being surfaced and is coming to pass. But we need to cling to our unchanging faith. He's bringing us an understanding of himself, that he's not the author of our challenges and our distress. He's the author of our faith. The word of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous run in it, and they're saved. Yes. I want to commend those who've been faithful and true in their faith to believe God. It's a day to love. It's a day to forgive. It's not a day to hate. It's not a day to divide, but it's a day and time to reconcile. I want to commend parents and their vigilance with their children, not allowing their children to stay alone. It's said that a child left to himself bring his parents or his mother to shame. I want to commend the parents that are pressing their children to get their education and to grow and to expand and not just allow them to make their own decision. I want to commend the husband and wife couples who are willing to forgive and to step over the boundaries of offenses and to reconcile our differences. But also I want to commend those who have the boldness and the wisdom to go their separate ways when it's necessary to do those kind of things. I want to say that we're living in the days of God. These are not just the days of Elijah. These are not just the days of Paul. These are not just the days of Samuel. These are the days of believers. These are the days of God's people. And I promise you, at the end of this time that we're seeing right now, we're going to see a tremendous outbreak of the faithfulness of God and the truth of God and the demonstration of our faith. Faith does have benefits if we trust in God. I promise you, God made me a promise. He said there's a promise of the productivity of labor. Some of you that have been laboring and doing things without fruitfulness, he says to me to say to you, if you continue to do the things that you've done that were not fruitful before, I promise you, if you continue, you'll begin to see the faithfulness. In essence, if you cast the net on the other side, you'd have kept a load of fish. The second thing is the productivity of our children. God says that's coming a revival in the public education system of America. Our schools that have been known for their violence and for their plunder and for how many weapons they can collect at the door are going to be known for their chivalry, for their respect, for their scholarship, and for their peace and for their order. That's also coming, he said to me, an indication of the needs for spiritual and practical wisdom, and also that's coming a jubilee, a jubilee. Some things are going to be forgiven. Some things that we've lost that God is going to have restored to us, and also the spiritual and practical wisdom. God is going to give us the wisdom and the insight to make the right decisions and choices. These are wonderful days in which we're living, and those who have been disappointed with God, hear me carefully, correct yourself. Board up yourself.
Yes.
Expand your tents and know that God is not your enemy. God is a righteous judge. God is your friend. What a bold statement to say. Yes. God is your friend. a friend of God. Abraham was a friend of God, and God was Abraham's friend. He is our friend, and that God means us well. God doesn't mean you harm. If you're going through distress and challenge and difficulty, it wasn't God. It could have been because of bad decisions, or could have been out of your control. And God was not testing you, nor proving you, nor chasing you. God, as James said, God tests no one with evil. He does not do that at all. Divorces and heartaches and loss of job and loss of home, that was not God. God means the best. But hear me carefully. What was lost will be gained. God says, if you lost one house, he can give you another. Lost a relationship, another can come. Let us not lose the power to love and to trust. Those are things that brings peace to our heart. But let's not lose our faith and confidence in a living God, a loving Father.
I want you also, Dr. Kirby, to help our viewing audience, or to just encourage them from the perspective of when things come against you in your mind, how you have disputation based on the promises of God, based on the history of God in your life, when he has brought deliverance to you, when God has been there for you, when he's made a way out of no way, when he's contradicted all sentences against you. To rehearse that, because that helps to build your confidence and your faith in God.
I wake up early. Sandra will know. I wake up early in the morning, about 3 or 3:30. I fill my mind with the thoughts of God. I read the things that God has said over the years. I read the word of the Lord. I rehearse that time, and I fill my mind. And because I fill my mind with the thoughts and ideas of God so early, there's no room in my mind for contrary and false thoughts. I find that the basic problem that will always face Christianity and believers is a matter of our conviction, our beliefs. It's up here. And so we must learn how to dispute with false thoughts and ideas that wants to say that God does not love us, or to make us think that we're less than what God calls us. We need to refute those thoughts.
And we're different in personality dynamics.
Yes.
In the morning, and I know that there are people out there that this happens to, when depression wants to walk into your room or walk into your mind, you say to your mind, I will not receive depression because God won't allow me to be depressed. You dispute anything that will pull you down emotionally and that will pull you down psychologically. You replace that with the promises of God.
There's some people out there I know, Sandra, who are battling depression, and they had no choice in it. There's some things that have happened in their life of which they had no control. But I want to say to you about the Spirit of God, if you listen to the things that we've said, and you will, number one, subject your will to principles, to the truths of God, and start rehearsing the things that God has said to you, I promise you, you'll begin to see alternative. You'll begin to see a solution. What does the word say? Sorrow is for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Yes.
And some have been living in a time of sorrow, but I promise you, joy is coming. Reach and catch hold of God. And understand this, God is your friend. God is not your enemy. The devil has no power over you. I promise you this here. And you're not the prisoners of your past. No. Hear me carefully. And God can change history. He can change the way you see it. He can change the way you experience it. And the things that were meant for evil, you'll find that God has turned into good. So here, be careful. Navigating the journey. What's going on? What's going on out there is that God is with you and you will be victorious.
I'm Sandra Clements.
I'm Kirby Clements, and we're the Clements Family Ministry.